Well, it's my great pleasure to introduce Leoni Hodgson from Brisbane, Australia. Leoni is a very active person in the esoteric field and has been a teacher in the area of astrology and general esotericism for many years. She's just completed this marvelous book, which I hope you will have a chance to look through and purchase. And she's come all the way from Australia to talk about the intuitive approach to the horoscope of Master Jesus. Okay, thanks, Leoni. Welcome.
So, hello everybody, and it's, I'm not going to stand there, that light's there. And it's really a pleasure to be here. I've been for 10 years to the conference. I came in San Diego, and a lot has happened to me since then, but the teaching generally and the astrology work has just unfolded. In the last, about 2 years ago, I decided to write this book, and it's just generally taking the astrology, the esoteric psychology and astrology, and trying to put it together so that it can be accessible to the public. So I'm hoping that anybody can pick this book up and formulate and work out their soul plan. That was the design for it. But in the process of doing it, I really wanted to go more deeply into the planets in the signs, because I've gone deeply through every planet and every sign on 3 levels of personality, soul level and the initiate level, and have really tried to bring forth some interpretations. And in the process of doing it, I really had to work with my intuition, as any astrologer would know, because I wasn't referring to anybody else's work in there. I wanted it to be my own work. I've been a classical astrologer for about 30 years, but getting into this, I really wanted to get my own interpretation on it. And so in the process of it, I came up with some new insights and about how perhaps we can do interpretations. And so that was just generally about the book. And I finished that part of it, and I thought, I have to do something more. I felt that the book wasn't complete. So I looked at the speculative charts for Gautama Buddha and for Jesus Christ, and I thought, well, now what's out there? I did an interpretation for a personality. I did Hitler, I did Oprah for discipleship, and I did the Dalai Lama for initiates. And I thought I wanted to look at saviors. So I started looking for charts that were out there, and I wasn't satisfied with what I found, mainly because there was not the evidence that I wanted, proving the charts through transits and progressions. I couldn't find that with any astrologer, so I thought I would do it myself, and these are the results of it. So I'm going to take you through the process that I went through to pick the birth date and the birth time, and then really show you, because the mission of Jesus Christ was to lead us through the path of initiation. And as we all know, the milestones in his life were representative of the initiations, the first 5 initiations. And so as part of that, I wanted to see if the times that these events in his life took place, I wanted to look for astrological evidence. And the chart I came up with, it really works, and so I'm going to show you it. So I'm quite thrilled with it and with the process of it all. So that's just about the book. We've done that one. So in this presentation, the first section I'll be talking about is how I went about gathering the data, and then the steps to determine the birth time, the birth chart itself, and then the initiations and astrological events that have taken place at those times. So I decided to do my own research online. And the best evidence I came up with, all the information that really appealed to me, and I was working with my intuition and all of these things. So there is so much information on internet about the speculative times and the arguments about Jesus' birth time. There must be, I don't know how many sites there are thousands of them. So I sifted through, but I came up and settled with the Catholic Encyclopedia, and it placed Jesus' birth time in 6 BC and said that there was a conjunction of Mars, Jupiter and Saturn in Pisces. And immediately my intuition got really sort of pinged with that, and I thought, well, we know about the star in the east, and it's quite possible. We know that Jupiter is the most, one of the brightest objects in the night sky, and so potentially this could really represent that sort of a conjunction, I thought. And I checked, and there was such a conjunction, and immediately my intuition started coming out. I thought, no, this is not just a fantasy, this is really real. And I can work with this. As an astrologer, anyone in astrology that works with rectifying charts, you know that you need facts. You need to bring your fifth ray mind in. So not only with my fourth ray mind, which I have, and using my intuition, I was also bringing in the fifth ray, because the fifth ray for me was the side of me that was going to have to prove that the birth time that I was going to settle on was accurate and would satisfy that side of me. So I checked, and there was this conjunction, and it would last, it was from the 6th to the 27th of February. And so that really appealed to me. Now, the sun moved from Aquarius to Pisces in this period, and I wanted it to be a Pisces sun, because as we know, Jesus Christ was the avatar for the Piscean age. And so I wanted it, and so that really narrowed it down to about 7 days, I think. Christ was the world teacher for the Piscean age, and DK said he was born into Pisces fishes, and that he was the world's saviour. And that, so I wanted it to be a Pisces sun. If we were right at this period, if I was doing a speculative chart, or maybe in a couple of 100 years' time, I would favour the Aquarius, because we know that the avatar is coming back as the avatar for the Aquarian age. But anyway, so Jesus would have to have been born between the 21st and 27th of 6 BC to have a Pisces sun and retain the conjunction. And so that made it easy for me, and I thought, well, what way will I pick the day? And I work a lot with the Sabian symbols. Does anyone else work with the Sabian symbols in their work? And I really picked the day on that. And I've got for those who don't know what the Sabian symbols are, the book that I work with is The Astrology of Personality. Dane Rudger was one of the disciples of Dwell Cool, and he has took Mark Edmonds Jones's work, and he's done a slight rearrangement of the interpretations. And so I work with his book all the time. If ever I'm trying to pick birth time, or I'm looking between different dates, I look at the Sabian symbol and I think, oh yes, I'll go with this one. And that's when you really have to get into your intuitive mode and meditate. And often I will meditate on it, and I meditated on these symbols, these Sabian symbols. And I thought immediately 3 of them stood out. One mentions crowds in a public market and evoked of Jesus moving amongst the people in the markets. 5th one, there's a church bazaar there. And here we have, in the 7th one, a clear cross resting on a rock. So I thought, out of those 7, I thought that intuitively those were the 3 that I would work with, and I meditated on them, and I selected the first one. When I looked at that, Jesus was in a marketplace, in a public market, and moving amongst them, and that was the image I got. So I settled on 0 degrees Pisces, and when you're working with the Sabian symbol, you usually move to the next degree. So, and there is the process that I went through. So, I've settled on one of those degrees in Pisces, but I had to look now at the chart itself, and I chose a Capricorn chart, and this was my reasoning. DK said that Jesus was born in both Pisces and Capricorn. He makes the statements in both signs. And because I had used Pisces, I thought, well, Capricorn was another really promising candidate for this. And in the Bible it also said that we know that Jesus was born at night. So I actually went to the date that I was working with, and Capricorn passed over the ascendant during the day. It was quite late. The time I settled on was about 4:30, but this was in winter, so dawn rises a lot later. So that satisfied my need to have the birth time at night. And 4:30, I think in winter time, the sun wouldn't rise until about 6 o'clock, perhaps even 6:30 in Israel. So I was satisfied with that. We celebrate Jesus' birthday in Capricorn, and perhaps the most important point for me to settle on a Capricorn ascendant was that we know that Jesus came to teach us about the path of initiation. And the Capricorn is the sign par excellence that rules initiation. And so I thought this was really good. So I had all these little pockets of information that said, yes, Capricorn is a really interesting candidate here, and intuitively it all seemed to come together, and I thought, this is really good. I'll see if I can make this work. So, but to be able to select that a Capricorn as ascendant, now I had to start doing rectification work. For those who are not astrologers, what you do, there are methods of projecting a birth chart forward in time, and then you look at the planets in that future chart and compare it to the natal chart, and they should resonate, and it should be provide evidence that whatever you're talking about, whatever you want to find out, should be there as evidence in when you compare the charts. So that's what I did. But and I decided to choose the crucifixion for the chart that I was going to look for in the future, or the date, because I thought it would probably be the most traumatic, and astrologers who do rectification work, we know that looking for the most traumatic incidents in the life usually will give you the strongest aspects and the most outstanding aspects. So I thought the crucifixion would be the prime candidate. So once again, I went back to internet and I had a look at these thousands of websites. I didn't read them all. I intuitively went through and flicked through where would this information be. And I started seeing the 3rd of April, 0033 come up time and again. And the people who were promoting it, because there were all sorts of arguments on the internet, that people argue about it and why it should be this or why it should be that. But what really stood out on that was the people who were promoting that date said that there were 3 things that came together on that day. It was a Friday, it was Passover, and there was an eclipse on that day. And these were all pockets of information that were given from the Bible. And so I thought that that was really quite powerful, and I went to have a look at myself to see whether the information was correct, and it was correct, especially astrologically. The eclipse took place on that day, and I thought that would just really, and I sort of meditated on intuitively, and you could and the eclipse took place at 5:30 in the afternoon, so it was late. So you can get the sense of, I got the sense of the sky darkening, the eclipse happening, and just the whole atmosphere that I sort of intuitively felt for that whole scene. I thought, well, that was really, strong and powerful. So I thought that that was an excellent date to work with for the crucifixion. So I went and had a look at what was happening in the charts on that date. So I'm working, this is the Australian or British way of putting the date together, the 3rd of April 0033. And after studying it for a period, Pluto was at 18 Libra by solar arc, I think the solar arc directions. In the natal chart, I was sort of working with both. Pluto would have been in the 8th house, and astrologers know that's the house of death. It's a house of transformation. And I thought, well, and by solar arc direction, on the 3rd of April 33, it was exactly at 18 Libra, and I thought, if I put the ascendant at 18 Capricorn, it would be exactly square, which would be a wonderful symbol for the crucifixion taking place. And so I went with that. I went with an 18 Capricorn ascendant, And when I did all my other work, it all fell into place. Everything clicked. All the because what I'm going to show you are charts for the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth initiations, and how there is astrological evidence in each of them for the initiations that we work with. And so, but that's how I came to it, studying what the minds and experts out there were saying, trying to pick out intuitively what I thought would work, and then looking for astrological information and evidence which would was acceptable to me and be able to work with that day, and then finally to prove it myself to see if it worked astrologically, and this really did work. So, and then I looked for the Sabian symbol, and it was a 5-year-old girl proudly does her mother's marketing. Now I've got this, I should have left that out, and it stumped me for a while. I thought, I'm talking about a boy child here. How could this probably be an important, spiritual symbol for Jesus Christ? And then I came up with it. No, we're talking about a boy child here, and I got in my meditation, I got the young Jesus at 12 when he went out, and his mother questioned him, and he said, "Wish ye not that I must be about my Father's business?" That was the image I got, and so I thought, oh yes, I'm really satisfied with that. That took me a while, and it seemed to fit, so I was satisfied with choosing a 19, it was actually an 18-degree Capricorn ascendant. So there's the chart that I came up with, and it was just astounded because I was saying, I hope there are a lot of planets in Pisces, and sorry, I was hoping there'd be a lot of planets in Pisces, and I got my wish. There were 5 planets in Pisces there. And I thought I really needed that. I mean, I would probably have dumped that chart if it wasn't, if it was only 1 or 2. And I had fingers crossed, and that's what I came up. And as well as that, look at Neptune, the symbol of the Christ and of the Piscean age up there, right up the top of the chart. The interesting thing about it, it was retrograde, and that troubled me for a moment. But when he was 7 years old, it went direct. I went and had a look. And I was hoping it was in 12 years old when he, said, "Wish me not," but it was a little bit early. But I thought perhaps for the first 7 years he was protected and was allowed just to be a boy, and hoping. But it turned direct at 7, and I believe that that's when his mission really started, was at that age, because Neptune turned direct at that stage. And there's just so much in that chart, and we'll look at it again in connection with the first initiation, because as we know, the birth at Bethlehem represents the first initiation, which is the birth of the Christ in the cave of the heart. But there's a lot in it, and we'll talk about it a little bit. So does the chart fit Christ's life is one of the first things, because if you're an astrologer who does rectification, the chart really does have to fit the personality life, not only the spiritual life, but the things that you do in your life, the job you have, the type of relationships and marriage, all these things really have to merge and be evident. And I was thinking, well, what could all that second house stuff be? It satisfied me that we didn't have a strong midheaven, like in Buddha's chart, Gautama Buddha, I've done that one as well. I've got his stellium up the top of the chart, his Taurus stellium. But Jesus really was born in poverty, and whereas Buddha was born as a royal prince, you see. And he had to come, he was a man of the people, and so having most of the emphasis down the bottom of the chart, which is a more obscure part of the chart as far as our public presentation and careers go, that satisfied me. And that second house, I'm just going to try out this thing, there it is. That second house there is about right spiritual values to live by, and Jesus really did come to teach right spiritual values to live by. He also came to teach us love, of course, and he was an avatar, transmitting avatar of love is what DK said. And so Pisces, of course, has so much to do with spiritual love, but the second house emphasis, I thought, did fit with his mission. So, and there's that wonderful quote there. Neptune is known esoterically as the initiator, the great teacher of the West, and the present world initiator. Christ is spoken of as Neptune, who rules the ocean, whose trident, an astrological symbol, signifies the Trinity and manifestation, and who is the ruler of the Piscean age. And see, there it is up there. In the chart, the 10th house in the midheaven represents our career. The midheaven is our high goals in life. So there we have the symbol of Christ in the Piscean age. His career was to come and to teach spiritual values to live by, to teach us about spiritual love, and so having that Neptune up there was wonderful. Venus is exalted in Capricorn. We know that he is the hierarchical ruler of Capricorn, and the DK says does represent spiritual love in there. And so there we have on the ascendant. Oh, there we have it on the ascendant. Getting to hang of this. On the sole purpose point, we could say Venus there, exalted in the sign of initiation there. So I thought that really did fit. So the chart, just looking at it with my fifth ray mind and saying, well, does this fit like that? I was satisfied with that. So based on that, and I went through step by step through the process in this method. And then there was the triple conjunction, and I meditated on that, and it probably took me longest to get there. So there we have it there. Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter. And that's what I came up with. I thought, well, if we look at the rays, and I was just playing with numerology and add the rays together, it comes up to the master number 11. And that was what came through with me intuitively first. And so I stayed with that. I was satisfied with that. I was just trying to perhaps just understand what that triple conjunction could mean esoterically. And that's what I came up with. I could probably have stayed with it and looked at different interpretations of it, but I came with that. And I was running out of time, by the way. I was trying to get my book printed and get this chart together. So I was racing everything at this time. So I wasn't, dwelling on things like I might do. I stayed with that one. But suffice it to say, that was the sort of thinking that went through my mind. And I said, yes, I'm satisfied with that. So I was up to this stage and I was saying, yes, I'm satisfied with that. So now we'll look at the initiations. And so I've already discussed a little bit about the initiations. But as we know, Vulcan and Pluto rule the first initiation. So I wanted to see if these planets were really strong in the birth chart. And of course they are. And there we have over there Pluto, which is that in the sign of Virgo, which is really connected to the first initiation. It represents the birth of the Christ spirit in the heart. So there we have it in the 8th house of transformation, and in Virgo, Pluto representing it. So there I was satisfied with needing Pluto to be really potent in that time. And of course it's opposite all this Piscean energy. It is the counterfoil for it. So I thought it is really powerful in this chart. And by wide conjunction, it's opposite the Sun. And as we know, Vulcan energy flows through the Sun. We are told that, I think, is it Vulcan and the Sun are one or something. But anyway, Vulcan energy, I says, is coming through there. So we really do have an opposition. And so what does that mean for people who are taking the first initiation? They need to do the purification and transformational work in the 8th house. They really need to go through that experience, and they need to change their values and live by spiritual values. So I thought that for the person who is approaching the first initiation, that would be an appropriate symbol in Jesus' chart that would represent what people had to do at that first initiation. And so there I have the information up there behind me. So I'm going to go through this because I haven't timed it. And then at the end of it, if you've got any questions, if we have time, then I'll take questions. Now this was really good for the second initiation. So as we know, what happened then, he went to River Jordan and Peter put, who was it at the initiation? Who was the, John the Baptist, that's right, sorry, and put Jesus down, and we understand that Christ came up. So that was when the overshadowing took place, and I thought that really had to be present in this chart, I thought. So the dates, by the way, I had to research all through to find out which dates were these likely to take place. I came to this time very quickly. I don't think I've got, 1:48 p.m. because I was working with the full moon. I thought, well, if this was going to be an overshadowing, probably a full moon sort of period would be good. And so I did. It was we had a full moon. Here you see, there's the moon and there's the sun, and it was straddling the ascendant. And I thought, oh, that's good. I like that. That fits. And I thought, yes, I would go with that. And so I really looked at this chart to see if there was evidence of it. I think I worked on this. And so the rulers of the second initiation are Neptune, Jupiter and Venus, and they needed to be really active in this chart for me to work. And they are. We have Venus and Neptune. Look at them. They were straddling the ascendant. They were conjunct. There's natal Venus. And so they were all straddling the sole purpose point, and there was also a full moon on that point as well. That was a lot of light. In my meditation, I thought there needed to be a lot of light for this. I thought, wow, that is really quite beautiful, and those beautiful planets of love there. Also, I thought that was just a beautiful symbol for what was, for the Christ coming in, because it essentially was the birth of the Christ in a way, the birth of the Christ consciousness coming through. So that satisfied me. The other thing was, that was when the mission really started. So, so the other amazing thing in this chart was, look where, if you have a look at the progress descendant, which is there, it had just gone into 0 degrees Pisces. The Pisces mission had really started then, is the way that I interpreted that. And it was exactly conjunct the sun. So here we have the presence of the Christ represented by the 0 degrees Pisces coming through Jesus, the personality nature at 0 Pisces. I thought, that's good. That was really just another piece in the puzzle that I thought, this is really excellent. And passing over it as well, is look, we have Jupiter. We know Jesus was on the second ray. Jupiter is a sacred planet that channels the higher ray 2 love energy, and we had this lineup of transit Jupiter, this thing there, and the Pisces ascendant and the natal sun, and I thought it was wonderful there. And then we had all this line up here. As well as that, we had a kite in there, and we had 2 of the sacred planets there, Uranus and Saturn, and in a kite with the progress sun there. So there's once again the transformation of the, thank you, the transformation of the personality. So there is the transformational planet. There's the planet of initiation, the Hierophant of initiation. There is a Saturn, so we've got these 2 synthesizing planets there and making a powerful aspect to the progress sun. There's just so much happening in this chart. I think I also had a look at 10 degrees Mars, because it was on the point up there in conjunction with Neptune. I thought, what does that mean? Well, here's the Sabian symbol. A drowning man is being rescued. I got the sense of the water there and of the, of the emergence of someone into the light and into the air. And intuitively, I thought that could symbolize the Christ coming up. There was just so much in the chart, and I thought, yes, I'm happy with that too. So I haven't taken that chart apart step by step beyond this point, but I could probably find a lot more using the Sabian symbols in there as well. So we go to the third initiation, the battle between the angel and the dweller. We know that the transfiguration, the third initiation, is when the angel finally defeats the dweller on there. So, and there was so much happening in this chart as well. And once again, I chose a full moon. I wanted, because the solar angel was very powerful at that time, and a full moon I thought would work nicely, so I went straight to the full moon on my day. Sorry, that wasn't supposed to happen there. And I got, once again, I got a full moon across there, a full moon happening across there. But at that time, we had Saturn, exactly, there is the angel natally. The angel its solar angel is Venus. And so there we had it natally, and at this time what we had, the most amazing arrangement, Saturn was opposite it, and the Tibetan says that somewhere at the end of the day, Saturn represents the dweller on it. So I thought that was a really appropriate symbol to have those two enemies, and we're told they stand face to face. Those who are Masons would know that there's a certain ritual that takes place where two people stand face to face, hand to hand, foot to foot, and they really battle it out. Of course, the angel wins in that. But so there we had Saturn opposite Venus, and it was so I thought, yes, that really does fit. And so there is the dweller, and if you have a look, here was the other amazing thing that happened. Pluto was at 18 degrees there, because this was just before the crucifixion. It was at 18, so on the right wing we've got Pluto, an non-sacred planet, and exactly opposite we have Progress Mars, who really is a troublemaker, and down there we have Transit Mars. So it's like, here is the dweller with the two wings on it. One side is Pluto, one side is Mars, for throwing down the challenge. And so, and I looked at the Sabian symbols, and this is what I came up with. I said, I need something to symbolize, the sort of evilness and that, or the unspiritual nature of the dweller. At 19 Libra, it refers to robbers or something. So there we've got Pluto and the robbers coming, and the troublemakers. We know Pluto represents the underworld and crime and everything. So I thought, well, that's a really good fit up there, having that. And down there for Mars, ugly and industrial area, and I thought, oh, that's really fits for that as well, because it's all our accumulated stuff from ages past. And I thought, yes, that is a really good a symbol. And then the symbol for Saturn itself, I think I've got 19 there, but there's just one of the, I think that's 20. But I had a prima donna is proving her virtuosity, and I thought that really fits, because the ego, the dweller on the threshold, is really a great prima donna in singing its wonderfulness and that. So there we had the prima donna laying down, claiming its the place of glory, and it is me, I am the one who is most powerful, it is me who's glorious. And there we have Pluto and Mars joining in with the chorus, and I thought that was a wonderful symbol for the dweller at that time. And then going on to the angel. So the angel, of course, had Venus, and we had the full moon across it. So that seemed appropriate there. But as well, if you look down here, we have Progress Venus has moved to 00 degrees of Pisces. Transit Venus was at 00 degrees Pisces. Here's the angel. And lining up with the sun again. So there was the angel there, and I thought that was really strong sort of astrological description of what was taking place. All of Venus was very strong, had to be strong to satisfy me with that. And there were some other things, many other points in the chart. Uranus was working through, oh, that's right, at as the transit moon at the time, sorry, it's working, there's the moon. It was really important for it because, as we know, for Jesus it would have been Uranus energy coming through. So at the time that the moon, I believe the actual transfiguration probably took place when the moon was exactly conjunct Saturn, I think, because Uranus, who up there anyway, there was transit Uranus up there in the 7th house. I just don't want to be using two, it's a bit too confusing for me, Philip, I'm sorry. Uranus is opposite, I think, the moon. But with Uranus coming, the energy pouring through the moon, I think that when, symbolically, when the moon got to Saturn, with Uranus energy pouring through, that symbolically struck at the heart of the dweller, and that was when the transfiguration, I think, took place. So I think there is an awful lot of information in the astrological that really does, give weight to that time and the birth time and date being really good candidates for the chart. And here's the the crucifixion. The fourth initiation was represented by the crucifixion, and as we know, that's the time when the causal body is shattered, and the soul is the solar angel goes back to the heart of the sun or wherever it comes from, and we step forward, and we're no longer bound to the wheel of rebirth. So that's what happened. So this had to be powerful, and I've already said that I chose how I fixed the birth time was because of that Pluto up there making a square to the ascendant, and that really does in itself represent the intense agony that Jesus must have gone through on that cross, because the understanding was as he suffered as a man, as a human being like that. He suffered all the pain and all the agony, the physical, emotional, mental, psychologically, that a human being would suffer. So it had to be really intense. And I think Pluto up there to the ascendant would really represent that. Transit Pluto is conjunct the progress midheaven and solar arc Neptune up there, so that was a real line up of there as well. We know that the MC does represent in a way Jesus' career or his missionary work, his father's work, because the 10th house has much to do with the father's work. So there we have one phase of the work being completed. We have the symbol of the Christ there as well, so that certainly was represented there. And then we have the rulers of this initiation, Saturn and Mercury, are trine by transit and aspect the ascendant, monitoring the events. So there we have over, I've got that in the wrong place, but there is Saturn, which has to be powerful at this this initiation, and making a, let me see, I've got this a bit out of kilter, with Mercury there. So there was the Mercury and Saturn that was strong. I probably could have gone further and looked for some of the Sabian symbols and some of the other aspects, but I thought that in itself was very powerful representation of the crucifixion. So at this point I was still really happy with the whole chart. I thought everything was just going click, click, click in place, which is what happens when you've got rectification chart is working well. And the last chart that I've got is that of resurrection and ascension. I looked at the ascension date, and I chose one in May of that year, and I thought that that was going to be interesting because May is the month, as we know, that Buddha was born in, or supposedly born in, and I just thought that that was a link up with Buddha, and as we know that they were so closely linked together, those two. But the fifth represents mastership and union with the monad. I myself put the monadic point in the chart. I know that Michael has some other theories that have come from the Tibetan. I work with the sun, and because there is much evidence in esoteric astrology which tells us it represents the spiritual sun at its highest aspect, and it is a link with the monad. It's called the father aspect as well, which the monad is called the father aspect. So I really work with at its highest level. To me, the sun, the transit sun, the progress sun represents the monadic point in the chart for me. So to me, that's what it really does represent. Sorry, I've just got the traffic over. So DK said that Christ would return as the world teacher in Aquarius, and if you see there, sorry, we'll go to the Jupiter-Uranus because they are the what the most powerful, I thought, aspect in the chart was the yod that came through. And here we have Uranus down there and Jupiter down there forming a yod aspect with the ascendant. And if we think that that was the ascension and the release from matter, it seemed appropriate. Those two planets working together are so wonderful. We have the Ray-2 Lord there and the Lord of Love working with the Hierophant of initiation up there and this finger of God, or the Yod aspect. And I came up with something really interesting when I was researching. What does Yod mean? And I found out that Yod is Hebrew and the first letter of YHVH, which is the name of the Saviour, Jesus or Yeshua. And I thought that that was really, really interesting. I thought that having that powerful Yod there, was appropriate. When I meditated on it, I got a sort of like the celebration that Jesus had successfully completed his mission, and I really got a wonderful sound of singing, of angels, of singing, and the celebration that would have been taking place as a result of that. And if I had longer, I would have put some of those insights in, but I just put this up for you. So I thought that that was really interesting. Pluto eclipses the progressed MC, so Pluto was still around the progressed MC at that time. So really, in this chart, eclipsing or finishing the mission. We know Pluto was there also at the crucifixion, and remember when Jesus said it is finished? Was that his exact words? So there we have Pluto on the midheaven. One aspect of the Father's work was completed, but it wasn't really completed until the ascension happened. So Pluto was still there. So there's the finality of that. We have down here, look where transit Neptune is. Here is the Christ, and it's just entered into Aquarius. Christ was to come back as the Aquarian avatar, and there he is for the future. In the first house we've shown here that there is the future promise of his next stage in the work that he was about to do. So that was the chart for the ascension, and those were the 5 charts. And it was only when I'd done the 5 that I thought, well, this chart is really working. We never know, of course, whether the time you've got is right, but if it works, I think, well, don't knock it. If it's working, don't, so that's what I came up with. So, the Sabian symbol for the MC at 8 Scorpio symbolizes a high mountain lake is bathed in the full moonlight, and that's a Roerick painting. But I thought that was really, really beautiful. Dane Rudger's interpretation was illumination of the soul by transcendent wisdom and quiet touch with cosmic strength. And I thought that was a really beautiful symbolic way of representation of Jesus, Christ's mission. And I thought that that was just a really nice way to finish the talk, which is finished, and I don't know what the time is. How am I going for time? We've got 2 minutes. Isn't it good? Yes. Yes, I used the one that puts it yes, around Mercury. I'll be really happy to get your cameras. Yeah, yes. The really good thing about it is when I work with Vulcan, I mainly work with the sun and the moon because we know that they are channels for it, you see. So I've never really placed too much importance about the actual location as it comes in and knows. I work with the sun and moon, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, the ages don't quite fit with the. Yeah, I didn't quite. Yeah, no, because that troubled me because we know that Jesus was supposedly started his mission around 30. You see, like that, and the timing isn't quite there. And in my book, I've got that. By the way, did I say it's a part of the book? Yeah, isn't it? and I just, but it was something that bothered me actually. And I meditated, and I thought I can't account for it. The astrology works, and so I thought I would just go with that. There was a real argument on internet about this virtual point, and but I thought, well, I can't account for it. I'll go with the astrology. I stayed with the astrology for the birth, with the triple conjunction, and I thought I would stay at the death with the astrology as well, and I thought I'd be satisfied with that. But it was a really good point. I'm glad you.
Thank you, Leona. That was great. Appreciate it. So I'm sure Leoni will be, open to questions when you, corner her somewhere and want to go into greater detail. So